Carol was saying, my name is Christina Mazza, and I'm a visual artist from San Francisco. And I work with reclaimed material, either objects that are found, or I actually draw on unfound objects sometimes. I work primarily in ballpoint pen, in colored pencil, in gouache, and reclaimed, repurposed latex house paint. So I'm a drawer, which is unusual for working at a dump residency. So in 2010, I went through the San Francisco dump residency run by Recology, which Recology itself, and I think I know how to do this, there we go, is an amazing company. First of all, from my perspective, it gave me amazing support as an artist, both from the people that ran the program and then also the people that worked scavenging alongside me, that their job was to reclaim materials, get the stuff out, get it into the landfill, whatever was remaining. They had a job to do, I had a job to do. I was never in their way. They always made time for me. So Recology is a sorting and hazardous waste facility. It's right across the 101 from Candlestick Park. And they are private and employee-owned, which is lovely. And they process over 1,400 tons of garbage a day from San Francisco. So it's quite, when you first start the residency, you're really struck with the volume of garbage that comes through that facility from us. And it really makes you rethink what you're doing here and how you can start jumping on the bandwagon with everyone else and recycling and really getting the word out there that everyone should recycle. They have a 77% diversion rate, which is amazingly high, one of the highest in the country. And they established this artist in residence program, the first ones to do so, over 20 years ago. Still ongoing, and there's only a couple of other residency programs out there that allow artists to scavenge in the dump. Can you see? It's an amazing opportunity for us to have it in our own backyard. So this is the area where you scavenge. It looks really disgusting, it smells disgusting, but it's one of the most enticing areas I've ever been to. It's overwhelming when you first get there. Overstimulation is #1 on my list when I went in there. But like a tide pool, if you just sit around and watch and wait, then you start to see all the crevices, all the nooks and crannies, and you start to see all the beautiful things that you can work with. And the fact is that if you're there long enough, anything you would ever want is going to come through the dump. Which is sad, but true. The trick is to get it out of the way and off to the side so that you can work with it before the loaders come and push it up into a pile and then load it into the bins to be carried off, because then it gets all dirty and you want it sort of freshly dumped. On site is an artist studio. It's a very large artist studio so that you're allowed to scavenge and take it directly to the studio space where you can let it sit around and you can begin to start sort of formulate the program that you're going to put out at the end of the 4-month residency. There is an art show that's put on for 2 days at the end of each cycle of each group of artists. Usually they pair them up with 2 so that you can sort of play off of one another. And you should definitely check out their website. Just say Recology Artist in Residence Program and Google it and you'll get right there. And you'll see the schedule for the upcoming artists. You'll see the archives of all the previous artists and their work and the websites to link them to. And it's quite amazing the variety of work that you see from the various shows. This is inside the studio, and this is a tour that's going through about 2 to 4 times a week. As an artist in residence, you have to speak to the public. They're going on a tour, and one of the favorite stops is the artist studio. And it's great both for the public because they're learning about recycling and they're learning how important firsthand it is to recycle. And then for you as an artist, it gives you an opportunity to talk about your work, learn to articulate your work. Because most artists, being as visual as we are not always the best speakers in the world, particularly about our own work. Sometimes you have to drag it out of us. So before I show you the work that I did while I was at Recology, I want to show you the work that I did prior. I was drawn to working with ballpoint pen. One of the reasons being that, as you can tell, I'm a rather uptight, very intricate drawer, and the pen allowed me to not erase. I didn't have the option to erase. What goes down stays down. So this is drawn entirely out of ballpoint pen, and with washes of gouache on top. And gouache is a type of watercolor to add pigment. This is also large in scale, so I was beginning to play with scale as a way of both isolating the item, the object that I was drawing, so that you really focused in on it, and then also enlarging it so that it changed the context of the piece. This to me becomes more artwork, more graphic than it is about a dirty ashtray.
Is that outside? What size is that?
The finished size was about 12 inches in height. So the cigarettes were kind of like a little bit larger than cigars. So I don't know exactly why, but they sort of had you had a desire to want to hold them. Just the size was very enticing for some reason. So I began to work with items that were discarded, that were either discarded by humans or discarded by nature. This was from a series of items that were from the ocean. This particular piece was washed up on Cowell's Beach down in Santa Cruz during a storm and was so fragile that I had to photograph it right there on my towel. It never would have made it home. So I was trying to capture the fragility of this piece. And also, as an artist, I was incredibly enticed by the complexity of it. There's so many different surfaces I was representing here, all with just a single tool of a ballpoint pen. Now, I was drawing on archival paper at the time, and so it was a beautiful surface to work on. It was a perfectly prepared surface. I will later expand into not so perfect surfaces. So this is really about my craft. I'm showing off my craft. This is a close-up of a larger piece. This piece is probably the largest ballpoint that I've done to date, and it's about 22 inches in height. It took over 200 hours to execute. This is a close-up of that piece, so you can see the workmanship. This is again in ballpoint pen, and I'm wondering if anyone can guess what this is at all. Sort of, yeah. It's actually the parchment paper that surrounds like banana bread and zucchini bread, which is why you see the accordion folds. It's the corner sections of the parchment paper. And I saw it at the farmer's market down at the Ferry Building one day. And the way the light was hitting it, it had this ambience to it. So I was thinking, how in God's name am I going to be able to reproduce that ambience through just one color and with a ballpoint? Because with ballpoint, the hardest area to draw is the light area. Because if you mess up, if there's a blob, it's there, you're done with, like hang it up. It's going to have to become a shadow or it's not going to work or something. You have to start over. So this was challenging in both the crumpling surfaces, the light play, and also the size, the duration. It became a duration of or a test of my tenacity. This is a piece of a mop from my son's elementary school. I went to the janitor and said, give me a mop. I went home and photographed it and sent it back. But I like the utilitarian aspect of it, and that it's sort of transformed. I was definitely responding to the line work and how difficult it would be to execute the surface. This is actually only half the mop, because I would have gone insane if I'd done the whole mop. But I like the labor, the commonality, the discard aspect of it, the anonymity of it, the thing that we see every day that now has become something really beautiful. Yeah. This is also something that one takes for granted. These are scrudge balls that you can pick up at the dollar store. They're either sort of a coppery color or a silver color, and they're used to just scrub out pots and pans. And I liked the light play and sort of warm type, spongy, springy energy to it. And so I drew it very large and I cropped in on it to help it lose its context. Because when I go out there and I look at things, they don't have context. I just look at them purely from a visual judgment, from a visual perspective. And I would like other people to see things that way as well. This was discarded from nature. These are fern pods. And in this one, I was responding to the composition that I came up with. I always photograph my images because it takes so long to execute. And it's hard to, I think to most people this looks like very similar surfaces, but it's actually quite a strong variation of surfaces. I was also working with positive negative space down in the root area, and the piece itself is only about 6 inches in size, so it's very detailed, very minute. This is an ordinary lunch bag that somebody threw in the gutter behind my car, parked on South Van Ness in the Mission. And when I saw it, it was the most beautiful sculpture I'd ever seen. And so I drew it as such. I loved the energy and the movement of it. And I also began to understand that I loved the hand, that there was a hand intervention. Somebody else's hand had intervened with this piece of trash and made some sort of a narrative statement with it, the angst that was portrayed in this piece that I wanted to capture. Now we go to the dump. And again, I was working with archival paper. However, I forgot to mention I was working with an ordinary paper ballpoint pen because I wanted that ordinary aspect throughout my work, including the tool I was using. And the ballpoint pen is what, 79 cents or something? And it gave amazing consistency. I have to applaud Papermate. It also had a beautiful tone. It was more of a brown tone as opposed to a purple or blue tone. And it just gave me such a range of tone, such sensitivity, that when I switched over to archival pens, which I had to because I needed them to be light fast, I just don't get that sensitivity or range amazingly enough, as I did with the Papermate. So anyway, I came to the dump. All this stuff was thrown at me. I was totally overstimulated. And I was excited at the same time, and I began to draw on walls. I began to draw on found material, book paper, wood, what else? I tried to draw on metal. I mean, I was trying everything. I also started to do some woodworking because they have an amazing wood shop there that I had access to, and I'd never done that before. So this piece is on a wall that's about 8 feet by 9 feet, and is painted with reclaimed house paint, which is available at the dump, as well as colored pencil, and that's it. And what it's from is some broken Chinese lanterns came through the dump, and I was so excited to get them. People would put them to the side for me because they knew I was an artist there going through the program. But when I opened up the package, it was the paper that was enticing to me because it was, or engaging me, because it was so graphic, so flat, and to me just so beautiful, and also the sense of the fragility, its temporary state, that the whole idea is to like pull it away and get to the real prize in the center. So it even emphasized more discard, that it's not like an end product of anything, that's just fluff. So I photographed it, drew it on the wall, and it's actually on the wall, so the piece itself is temporary. When the show was over, the residency was over, they painted over it and the next artist came in. So I reinforced that sense of fragility. This piece is a drawing with colored pencil, and I think I used some gouache on this, on a shipping crate. This is a close-up. You can see the stamps on there. And this is when I really began to understand that the narrative on top of the narrative, my narrative drawings on top of a narrative piece. This piece came from India, went through London, and then came in through Portland, Oregon, either through the stamping, you can tell that story, or from the labels that were worn off. And it's a vintage piece from like the late 50s, early 60s because of the trim that's on there. We don't make them like that anymore. So I did numerous drawings. And this is a completed piece. And so this piece in particular, I began to dig deeper into the meaning of what I was drawing. This piece is called Contained Spaces. And I was formulating an idea for my show, and the theme of the idea was to look at those discarded parts of your life, of your history, and acknowledge them, reclaim them, redeem them, and love them because they're part of who you are and what makes you who you are, even if they're terrible events that have happened. So the idea of putting the children on there, and there are 4 children on these panels, was my way of having them look out to you and ask you to acknowledge them and love them as part of you. This piece is of construction tools that I found just sitting on the ground, beautifully composed. I tried to reconstruct that composition in photograph, and I drew it on book paper. It's done with ballpoint pen, gouache, and Prisma pencil. And then, and this is cut off a little bit, but this is bound paper. Again, hand intervention. It was some construction guy rolled up the paper that they put down on the floor at a site. I loved the way he rolled it, and I photographed the coils of it. I drew it on cardboard and inlaid it into a iron griddle. And so the iron griddle became the frame. This is the same idea, floating cardboard set into a silver candy dish. Again, kind of reframing what a frame is, rethinking what a frame is. This is a smaller piece. This is packing paper drawn inside of an ashtray. So this is rather small. I liked the rhythm of the drawing playing off of the rhythm of the frame on book paper. This is a very small piece. This is a drawing of twine with ballpoint pen on the inside of a catalog, beautiful red catalog, and set into a broken light fixture. Then it's a little dark, but I also started to explore with 3D, and this is a piece I did for another show. This is called Cityscape, and I built it entirely out of reclaimed wood, and did gouache, acrylic I think was in this piece, all scavenged from the dump, and colored pencil. And I was drawing images. It's hard to see here, but the graphic images were inspired from like manhole covers and different patterns that you see throughout the city, different graphic patterns, street signs, anything that was sort of repetitious I picked up on. So that's what the graphic images are, and then the narrative images are of like cigarette butts from before, and then also magazines, smashed soda cans, got rubber tires there. So all urban debris. And it breaks down nicely for shipping. I also, this is part of the woodworking aspect, I took wood from the dump and made it a uniform shape and turned it into a stream of patchwork of colors. These are from all over San Francisco. They're fences, they're furniture, they're anything that's made out of wood, looking at the colors and making something really beautiful, introducing mitered corner, so it wraps around. Some of the pieces are from fences and they actually had the lichen still on them. So I really liked that sort of earthy, also the way a quilt feels, really handmade, earthy quality. This piece was done for an Asian American show. It's very large. It's 12 feet by 9 feet and is made up of numerous wood panels of different tones. And inside the wood panels, I've got these smaller strips. Hard to see, maybe this one you can see the best. But there's also some stamping from crates that have come over from Asia to the West Coast here. And the images of packing paper. So what I was commenting on here was the transition of culture, from one culture to another culture, of an Asian coming to America, becoming an Asian American, and setting up roots here. How we all had that transition to go through, but we all have our individual stories of how we made it, how our families made it. And also the variation of tone represents the different skin tones, which is very important to the Asian culture. It's kind of a hot topic. And so I wanted to represent the full range of the community. These are rubber bands, and this was done with ink, acrylic paint, and colored pencil. A large wall installation, just responding to the feminine rhythm of the rubber bands, just laid out and photographed in various positions. This one I recently completed, bottom's cut off, but it's of a wall installation, a wall fabrication for our magazine office in San Francisco. And it's made entirely of reclaimed wood. The piece is about 13 feet tall, so I had to put together numerous pieces of wood, make them seem seamless. And then it's router cut. This is another, I don't know if you picked up on it, it's another take of the packing paper strips, the wall illustration that I did. But now it's now woodworking. And the piece itself is actually incredibly heavy. had to be mounted to the wall with certain mechanisms so that it's solid. And yet, when you actually see it in person, it has a very lightweight, sort of origami, folded paper feel to it. The white on white, I think, accentuates that. So this is a raw example of the router cutting wood. And this piece I just finished about 2 weeks ago for an auction at the Institute for Contemporary Art down in San Jose. It's for their fundraiser, for their live auction. Kind of simple, I just want to show off my craft. It's a ballpoint pen drawing of rope that I've scavenged. And I liked the composition. There's some subtlety happening down at the bottom that's hard to replicate and slide. I think also my work, the appropriateness of my work is, for a number of reasons, the timing of it, both with being eco-conscious. I'm working with a lot of reclaimed material. I'm being inspired by very earthy, reclaimed items. And also, I like the idea that my pieces they do take a lot of time to execute. You can look at it for a long time and still be satisfied. And that's in contrast to a world right now that's going incredibly fast with the internet, with information overload. And so I perceive this as a counter to that, a place where you can sort of slow down a little bit and really take in something that took a lot of time and was hand done. That's important. So this is a close-up of a piece I'm working on. That's the beginning of a new series. It's a very large Buddha baby. He's about 5 feet tall from head to toe on paper, and it's done with gouache and colored pencil. I think that's it. But the new series is about kind of discarded people, people that are discarded either because of circumstances or because of choice, their choice of how they live their life. And in this instance, this child not necessarily was discarded by his family, but he was a preemie child, and he was born with open chambers in his heart. So he had to, within days of his life, have to go under open heart surgery. And he's also an Amerasian baby, so he has this really beautiful, sort of indescript, universal face. It's a beautiful Buddha-looking face, but it's not like too Asian, not too Latino. It's like an everything face, and very angelic. And he was 4 months old here, but really this, I think, only like 7 pounds. So he's fought, for several years to make it. He's undergone numerous surgeries. He's going to be entering kindergarten next year and has 1 more surgery left. So he is really a miracle child and a lovely representation of hope. So he's going to have a full body tattoo of various images, Buddha-type images. It's commissioned by his parents, and it's going to end up at Lucille Packard down at Stanford as a donation, their gift to them, and to inspire other parents to have hope as well.